What is going on? Every Port Sports late night Wednesday on this April 29th, 2026. And this week so far has sucked if you're a Kentucky fan. Let's just throw it out there. But before we get into it, boys, how are we doing over there in Vols country?
I think it's been a pretty good week. How about you, T?
Am I coming through?
Yeah, we got you. Just a little bit low, but we got you.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on, but things are good for me. Good time to be involved, baby.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll just get into it. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. NCAA Tournament Expansion, NBA playoff, this new stupid lottery rule. I'm not quite sure what they're getting to with that. And then Juke Harris, Tennessee news. I see that Rick Barnes out there recruiting right now, trying to fill those last two roster spots. But Tyron Stokes, I gotta tell you, I'm getting a little fed up with inside the NBA. That's now two commitments back to back. Caleb Wilson, Tyron Stokes. He gets on there with Shaq, Ernie, Jet, Charles, and completely just dunks on Kentucky. Caleb did it last year. We thought he was ours until the last time. This one was a little bit different because, we were hoping and praying something was going to happen. Everything leaned Kansas, and sure enough, it was Kansas. But did you gentlemen watch the recruitment at 6:30 Eastern time yesterday? Or, I'm sorry, the commitment yesterday, 6:30 Eastern time.
I did not.
No. Care about that, John.
You didn't even care. What do you mean? I thought you would at least troll watch.
No, I figured I'd figure out one way or the other because I knew Twitter, I know X is gonna blow up, and just based off that, I could judge which way he committed.
And I think T and I were pretty settled on the fact that this was going to be a Nike athlete signing with an Adidas school weeks ago. I think we called that out, so there wasn't really any drama in it for me.
I don't know about that. We might have to check the tape. Oh, but that is a definite.
We can check the tape.
That's it. I don't know how that happens. Nike's biggest athlete in a minute, and he was set on Kansas. And Coach Evans in the comments, he was on the show Saturday. He did say it seemed like Kansas was was a school he wanted to go to all along, and he was right. But if you're watching, I'm curious because comment in what you think. There's some debate on whether or not we thought we were in it to the 11th hour, or we had kind of pulled out and gotten away, and just but there's tweets and comments from Mo Williams out there, head coach, liking tweets. It just all in all wasn't great PR wise all the way up until the end. But Tyron Stokes, all in all, a big miss for Kentucky and Mark Pope. Not necessarily for roster construction. And I said this on 127 The Game, live at 5 with Coach. You didn't need Tyron Stokes to get back to being a great team, NCAA tournament, like true competitor, Elite Eight type squad. But when you go all in on this dude and spend so much time, you lose out other recruits for him. You bring him in for a second visit, like, and not landing him is such a bad look on Pope as he goes now 0 for 14 for top 20 recruits for this class who came to the building and did not commit. Wipe that smile off your face, T. It ain't funny. It ain't funny.
It's funny. I'm sorry. I think you're right though. Like the main issue is that you pushed all your chips in, all your eggs in the Stokes basket, alienating whoever else, and so you lose all the other people that you could use to form your roster as a whole, and then you lose your big fish also. It's a gamble, and it didn't pay off. And unfortunately for y'all, I'm here for it, and I love it.
Yeah, it's So let's go back. Let's go back in time, right? It was at one point Kentucky super favorite for Tyron Stokes. If you believe some of the reports that came out, he was gonna commit it, Big Blue Madness, and then it leaked. Supposedly he got upset. What's up, Juice? And then it kind of spiraled out of control at that point. I don't even know how true that was. It doesn't really matter. We brought in other guys, Caleb Holt. I mean, big name dudes who could have really been a recruiting win for Pope. And it's not a secret that Tyron Stokes isn't for everybody, right? Whether it was recruits who, from this senior class coming in, from the 2026 class, to transfer portal guys, like he's not for everybody. But you go all in on him, and you don't pull out on your terms. That's why I think what's such a bad look. And I was talking with Coach about this. Like, if Pope would have just pulled out, and this doesn't make sense for us, and we'll talk about the NIL contract and how much money he has and how much of it has to be rev share money and all the kind of red flags that come with that. But if you just pull out like all the other schools do and say, we're just going to focus on somebody else, we clearly haven't lost this. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. But the fact that you spent all this time go up to, to the fan base, it looks like they were watching along just like us at 6:30 Eastern time. Like, is he going to pick us? Is he not going to pick us? Like, that's just not a good look, And as much as I have supported Pope, and I do believe that, they knew and there was a pivot, and that's why he's traveling, across the pond to meet with folks. To the fan base, PR-wise, it's like these dudes have no idea what they're doing. And that's just not where you want to be this late in the game when the portal and most of the talent is gone. You're waiting for NBA guys or potentially NBA guys that drop it out of the draft. A lot of the fan base is thinking Pope, one, can't close, and two, I don't even know if he has a plan, which is a significant problem, especially when, BBN is as rabid as they are on Twitter. If there's a void in information, or there is
to be an issue to me, being an outsider looking in, lack of plan. I mean, we've talked about it, and I've somewhat supported his roster construction the last 2 years, and obviously y'all have had some injury bugs in wrong positions. Part of me thinks, and it's not all on him, but part of me thinks he was a little hamstrung by Owe, because Owe, while he's a good ball player, doesn't fit a Pope style offense because he's not really a shooter, right? From what I can tell. And so it seemed obviously the first year was just scramble mode. So we don't have time for a plan. We just got to get bodies to fill out a roster. But then last year, it did not seem like the roster was constructed in a way that fits what a Pope offense is supposed to be. And so it seemed to me like 2 years in a row, it was like, let me just get bodies, players, get as, high rated people at all. And we're not so much looking at fit. So if I'm BBN, I maybe am concerned about there being a lack of a plan. And then almost like, so say you do even land Stokes, like how do you feel about the rest of the roster around him and all that? I don't know that that's real, not that you don't have players, but I don't know that it's really truly built out. So I'd be concerned about a lack of a plan.
Yeah. I mean, so if we talk a little bit about last year's roster, I do think the first year roster was constructed to work for what Pope needed. There wasn't enough pieces in the system, right? If you lost one piece to the puzzle, it all kind of fell apart, right? You just couldn't put the picture together. So like you had a stretch forward, Andrew Carr, he goes out with the back injury. It is what it is. You don't have anybody to really replace him in that position. He was vital, especially in those wins against Duke and Gonzaga early on to really get the fan base on board. You have a great point guard and lockdown defender in Lamont Butler. And you have Kerr, who's a shooter, not as great defender. He's more of he can potentially give you a bunch of minutes, but really he's just coming in relief for a point guard. They both get hurt. And then your biggest piece in Jackson Robinson doesn't finish the season. You have to rely on Kobe Bryant to be like your lead scorer. You look at this year's roster, if you have Jalen Lowe who stays healthy, not a great three-point shooter, but 35-ish% serviceable, but good facilitator. You can put Otega Owe at the 2. You can put Zell at the 3, and then you go on down the line. I think it works. But again, in a key position, there wasn't depth. He didn't go replace a Caden Lewis. So when J-Lo goes down, now Zell's got to figure out how to play point guard. And then you can see everybody scrambling. It was very late into the season that we really started to figure that out. And Zell was able to, play point guard, get assists without turning the ball over. And even then, the offense was definitely not a Mark Pope offense. That's what you saw there. It was more pick and roll, and it really wasn't the MPO that we think of.
That's part of the planning, though, right? Again, I think kind of a mulligan year one because he came in so late, and also I'm kind of giving him credit for how he constructed it, but the injuries played a factor. But if you have a plan with some depth to it, then that helps you create depth on your roster. Like Tennessee, we didn't have any depth this year, and we kind of had some issues with how we attacked the portal this past offseason and all that. So, and I think that kind of played out because we only had 2 people who could score. And so I think Pope is bringing in some good individual pieces, but the depth that you need for it to be a good, well thought out, long plan, I think he's still trying to figure it out and navigate it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I think the misses keep compounding on each other, right? I go back in time to, a Caden Lewis walks, and some of those things are out of Pope's control. Pop's getting arrested for, just being fraudulent with this nonprofit. The story goes, Pope kind of put his hand over his shoulders like, hey, man, you do what you got to do. I don't know. The dude already committed. You knew he was going to be a big piece. Like, do you really go and be like, hey, I do what you got to do? Or like, no, we're going to figure out a way for you to be a cat.
Yeah,
like, we can't miss on you.
We will support you while you are in the fold.
Yeah, exactly. Like whether it's got to be extra money because I think he did go get more money when he went out, and decommitted and went to Villanova. But then again, you don't find anything to replace him. You bring in big ticket guys. You bring in Pierre. You bring in Wilkinson, and you miss, right? And then again, now we'll focus on Stokes. You put so much time and effort into him. If you just would have bowed out from that, I really think you could have gotten one of these guys, right? Because it's not just about Stokes and not being able to play them. You brought in dudes, and I don't buy in on the fact that like Pope's just this weirdo who just can't connect with players, right? I think that's a silly narrative. You got other guys in there. Yeah, the memes are great. Yeah, it's dude. And I'll talk about what I think about the media stuff too in a little bit, but it wasn't just the Stokes thing, right? Where Pope had the issue with recruiting some of these guys, where we really thought last year's portal class was going to be longevity in the program. Jalen Lowe was going to be a multi-year guy. Colin Chandler wasn't going to leave, right? We go get a top 30 guy in Braden Hawthorne, who I think is going to be a dog. He redshirts. He fortunately comes back next year. Malachi Moreno, expect him to return. But we lost. Mo D was going to be a 2-year guy. Yelovich possibly a 2-year guy. So, like, we had some folks who were going to have longevity there and building the program, which if you go back in time, recent history, that's how you win championships. That's how you get to Final Fours, is build within the program. It's not – and go get 1 or 2 pieces in the portal. So really all you had to do is go get 1 stud freshman. All those guys come back. Now it all falls apart. Colin Chandler gets $3.2 million to go back to BYU. J Lo seemingly kind of gets pushed out of the program because of injury history, and I think he wanted a little bit more money or some more guarantees. And then it just goes on the line. Like Mo D didn't pan out, just didn't fit well in the offense. Yelovich, who knows what happens there. So now you are in this predicament of going, I thought I was going to have like 5-6 dudes return, and now I got to rebuild my entire roster from the portal, and I still don't have that key 5-star dude that I can lean on, right? And when you gamble like that, it doesn't pay off. You're in a bad spot. And again, like you said, it seems like there was not a plan, or at least there wasn't a branch plan, right? There wasn't like, if we get to a certain point, right? If we get to a certain point, it's not working, we got to just bow out, branch off, and do something else. And they seemingly were stubborn in the fact that whether it was bad information on Stokes, or they just truly believed they could somehow with Nike figure it out, they waited to the 11th hour, and they look silly. They really do. Between the Mo Williams tweet, which I'm hoping was just a troll, I don't know. But if they really thought at 6 o'clock, 30 minutes prior to the Stokes commitment, they still had a shot, I'm nervous about kind of where the behind the scenes look for Kentucky basketball is right now. But that being said, it's time to move on. There's still dudes that we can go get in the portal if they then get out of the draft, decide to get out of the draft, and there's dudes who I think can really be key pieces. Here we go. Before we move on to Tennessee and Juke and where you guys are at, we'll bring in Drew. What's up, man?
What's going on?
Did you catch any of that conversation? You thought hear me about Tyron Stokes and Pope's plan, or maybe lack thereof?
I caught a little bit, and then I was getting my stuff set up so I could jump on.
So what's up, just a quick recap. It seemed like from the fan perspective that Pope and co were legit watching Inside the NBA with us to find out if Stokes committed. Now, I have to believe, or I choose to believe, that's not the case and that they knew. But most of the fan base is like, we don't know what we're doing, or Kentucky basketball is in a bad spot. How do you feel about it? Do you think Tyron Stokes was like the piece that we absolutely had to have for roster construction, or do you think it was more of a PR win and now Pope's got to figure out how to go get another dude that BBN can buy into?
This is a good comment, but this last comment to me.
I think Stokes would have been a huge get for Pope just because of the fact, like what you mentioned. I think it was 14 of the top 20 guys visited, and Kentucky got 0 of them. Like, I think that would have obviously it would have just been huge for 100 different reasons. Like, you talk about the talent, you talk about the fact that like Pope would have closed on finally a huge recruit. It could have opened the floodgates up to, guys in the future wanting to come here because you have something to sell, because that's the problem. Like, Pope doesn't have any recruits or NBA guys to sell from where he was previously as well, which probably hurts him in recruiting as well. But, I think the staff probably knew that they weren't getting him, but they probably held out some belief of putting all the chips in that, like, maybe at the 11th hour he'll change his mind or something. Obviously, the PR of it wasn't great, like the Mo Williams tweet and, probably the McBride commitment like 20 minutes before. Like, I feel so bad for that kid committing to Kentucky, and then your commitment just gets swept under the rug because nobody's caring about it, because we're all sitting there anxiously waiting for Tyron Stokes to make his decision. But I think at this point, on April 29th, that, it was April 28th, I guess, but, that would have been huge basketball wise, because it's going to take a lot to fill the talent that he possesses. If this was in December or January or even just a month ago, it wouldn't hurt as bad because you have a ton of options that you could fill. But right now, I mean, you kind of need something crazy to fall in your lap to be able to, override that talent loss of losing Tyron Stokes.
Right. And there's maybe 3 or 4 guys that could come out of the draft right now that would be like, okay, this dude has the experience and the talent to at least match what Tyron Stokes can have, and maybe not have some of the red flags that, were out there on Tyron Stokes. I've said before that I didn't quite buy into that. I think he'd do just a competitor. So I'm not going to sit here now and go, yep, didn't want him because he was going to be a cancer. Some of the NIL structure I think is good that we got out of, like the fact that a lot of the big percentage had to come from rev share. He wanted some money up front. Like there's some weirdness in that. The fact that I think it was said today, I think it's on X or maybe it was on radio, that if Kentucky did end up getting him, we were going to have to pull money from other sports to help fund this thing. So I think all in all, it's probably best for the whole of the basketball program and everything else that we didn't land Tyron Stokes. But you have to go actually prove that by spending that money somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it's best case scenario if you're able to counter that in the next couple of weeks and find a guy, but there's really only 2 guys in the draft that really would kind of fill that, which is obviously Milan Momcilovic, if that's even an option. And I know that there was a report out yesterday that Tunde is staying in the draft. And although that might be true, and I don't want to play the game but just speculating, like the account that posted that only has like 1.5K followers. And I didn't see any other, like the Goodmans, the Norlanders, any of those guys coming on it. Now that doesn't mean that it's not true, but also at the end of the day, like, yeah, there's $7, $8, $9 million sitting there that would have been used for Tyron Stokes that, like, hey, money talks, I mean, who's to say that Kentucky didn't call today and say, hey, we got $5, $6 million right here. Like, if you want to pull your name out of the draft, but that's just me speculating. But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's good parts of it, but there's also bad parts of it. But the good parts of it are going to be good only if you're able to find a way to kind of replace that void.
Yeah, 100%. You got all this money to spend. You got to go close on somebody, right? And Pope has seemingly, and Keegan Brown has seemingly not want to overspend on folks who have, like medical red flags, i.e. Freeman, right? And then we go Njai, I think is how you say his name.
I think it's Njai.
Njai.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm just gonna call him French KD for now. But you got to get it done. Got to get it done because it's going to help. Yeah, exactly. And I think potentially some luck falls his way. I know the 5-5 rule. It came out earlier in the week that not going to include current seniors. But if you go read it and talking to some folks, that's not how the initial thing was presented. So you have to vote yes on this and then vote in the new additions of it's not going to include your 2022 high school class, which then I think opens up the door for a lot of lawsuits because these dudes had to play against COVID 6th, 7th year seniors. You probably make sense to just grant them in to reduce the amount of lawsuits and the burden on NCAA. Just say we're going to get a win later on, 5-5. So maybe there's some luck that falls Pope's way there. And most rosters are full, and we have some money, and you get Owe, and you get Milan, and you do some NIL gymnastics that way. But you can't rely on that. Like Pope's got to actually show us that there's a plan, and go get one of these dudes. The moment they drop out of the NBA draft, it should be like visit, commitment, bam, 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 we get everybody on board.
Or now, reach out to the agents. You don't even have to reach out to the direct players, but reach out to the agents. Say, hey, we got $5 million at Kentucky. Like, what's it going to take for you to pull your name out of the draft? And we don't even, let's just get this thing over with now. But, we'll see. I've been kind of negative on Kentucky's offseason so far, but, that's just because due to my expectations of what I had, going into it. And it's been underwhelming from what I expected to happen. But, I don't think the roster is bad. But with that being said, I don't think the roster is great or up to a Kentucky level roster standard either. If they can just get one or two really good players, then we're back in business and we're talking about a good team. But they got to go get the guys. That's all it comes down to. They got to get the guys.
Coach Evan got zero respect for old guy out there in the Senegal. He's going to be a stud. So I want to bring Tennessee on this too, because I don't know y'all's media outlets really, but I do want to get your perspective on, you would know how much kind of leaks from Rick Barnes' camp and how much he keeps close to the vest. He's an old school guy, so I imagine not a lot. But for Kentucky and Mark Pope and his camp, whether it's these new folks or the previous 2 years of the guys that he brought in from the jump, there is not a lot of media engagement as far as internal things getting out, right? Everything is very close to the chest. We talked about this when the portal started. You can't really put a lot of stake in things that come out because Pope is working out there in silence. And I like that. I like that he keeps the thing close. Now, that being said, this, strategic communication 101, if you put out nothing and cause a void and there's a vacuum, it's going to get filled with something, right? And if you aren't getting wins on a consistent basis, or at least one big win, it's going to get filled with things that probably aren't great, right? And that's what we're seeing right now. It's things that are getting filled that are half-truths, or they're coming from sources that are from other teams and other agents that are things that aren't looking, that are making Mark Pope and Kentucky basketball and everything involved with Kentucky basketball not great. So he's got to find a way, in my personal opinion, to find some trusted outlet that he can start pushing information, or somebody push information out of to try to counter all the negative, because it's going to keep building. It's going to keep building. And no matter how much people go out there and try to stay positive and say these things aren't true, small accounts are trying to, stay positive. This guy, I'm going to get quickly overwhelmed by all the people out there who have been doing this for a very, very long time and do know some things. It's going to get drowned out. That voice is going to carry. And Mark Pope is going to lose that battle, right? And I don't want to see it. I think he's a good coach. I've said I think he can do great things here, but he's got to be able to figure out how to navigate that, because he's failing there too. So he's failing on the recruiting side. He's failing with the PR side. He's not doing the things right now to at least have a outlet that can help him in the world of social media. So at some point, he's going to get buried completely. He's not going to be able to come out of it. And from the Tennessee perspective, I know you guys see it a lot with football, but from any kind of, any media outlet, source, Twitter, all these things out there, baseball's getting real loud on how they handle that. You've had some issue with the AD. Are you seeing the same issues? Because I only see BBN Twitter, and I see how vile it can be and the attacks that are coming. Do you see the same thing with Tennessee, or does Rick Barnes and Heupel have a good way of manipulating what comes out positive for them in long run? I think Hammer's probably more engaged on that one. What do you think?
I don't necessarily know if the coaches manipulate. I think they each have their own way of handling business. I think Coach Barnes is a little bit more real and speaks directly to the issue, where I think Coach Heupel's a little bit closer to the vest. And he chooses his words carefully to not let too much get out or let there be information that can be misconstrued. He doesn't always seem to be the most forthcoming, especially when it refers to injuries, discipline, or, who might play. And some of that could be gamesmanship that you don't want to show your hand and who's going to be out there on the field on Saturdays. But I think Coach Barnes is pretty real. And if you've ever paid attention to any of his press conferences, he'll just tell it like it is, but he tells what he wants to tell. So he won't ever misconstrued or mislead. Sometimes he just won't say things. And I think recruiting wise, he's been pretty tight-lipped on that. And I think that's probably predicated by the fact that, we have gone after some fairly high-profile transfer portal candidates. And the landscape that is transfer portal negotiations, you don't want much getting out. You don't want anybody to have a competitive advantage. You don't want anybody to know what kind of offer you put on the table. So I don't know if it's necessarily a Coach Barnes thing. I think that's how you have to navigate in these waters right now. So I think we're probably going to continue to see less and less information come out, especially regarding the transfer portal. I think maybe high school recruiting, you may see a little bit more forthcoming. But even that still, we have NIL to get these kids to come to play straight out of high school. So I don't think anybody's really going to get a lot of information that they can just absolutely solid, 100%, this is what is happening. And the good coaches and the good sports information directors and the good athletic departments won't let that stuff leak out.
Yeah, or like you said, they're letting things leak out that they want to leak out.
Yeah.
And T, what's your perspective on that?
To me, I think we have a good relationship with our media, and I think there's trust there. So like the insiders, the VolQuest guys, I think sometimes they know things, but there's an embargo on information release, and they respect that, right? So, it's, hey, understand we're working this guy or we're into this guy heavy. We're not trying to create a bidding war. We're not ready to release his name yet, because there were multiple times where they would some of the insiders would kind of put some nuggets out there that you could kind of tell that they knew something, but it wasn't enough to expose names and all that. So I think obviously when it comes to the recruiting and the portal, it was still, played fairly close to the vest, but I think there was some communication with coaches and guys in the know who talked to the insiders, on the condition of, hey, this is a delayed release or whatever. And that trust so far, like it's gone both ways. It's gone the way it's supposed to. Because I know you were kind of mentioning the media and things. So yeah, some of the insider nuggets that people have shared with me, you can tell they know something, but sometimes they'll even say it like, I can't tell you yet. I have got to wait till Friday or something. And then there's some signing on Friday. And then, so you could tell they knew what was up. But that's at least with hoop. With football, I don't know as much. I haven't been as privy to as much, but that's how it seems to work to me in hoop.
Do you guys have in Tennessee fan base? Do you guys have like random fans that try to be insiders too? Because like that's a problem. That's a problem with Kentucky stuff. Is like you'll just see random accounts. Oh, this guy's committing, or posting a video or picture of some guy, and there's no context there, and you're just like, what the heck? And then everything starts going absolutely crazy, and like I think that's a problem that we have in BBN Twitter.
We definitely have that. The other thing is sometimes they'll just try to take screenshots or whatever of the things with paywalls and then just post that like they were the one that had the information. And so the guys that do some good work behind the paywalls, and this is what they do for a living, so you got to have it. They've kind of just been like, come on guys, please don't do that. I've seen a lot of that, like trying to steal someone else's information and present it as your own.
Yeah, and as Dude just pointed out there, it happens more with football than it does basketball. But we still have my sisters, cousins, brothers, uncles nephews, nieces, great-granddaughters, on my mother's aunts, twice removed, divorced 3 times, remarried twice. Brother-in-law works there. He empties garbage cans, and he knows for a fact that X player is going to commit.
Yeah.
So
hey, that sounds like good info right there. That's solid source right there.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much money
I put on those sources and reports. So
Hardball said he's an Arkansas insider. He's got the inside scoop.
Yeah, him and Josh Woo Pig both.
I quite enjoy Hardball. He's good.
Hey,
I do as well.
And I got to take a real quick second here. I got to take exception with one of my own here. I can't believe I'm gonna have to do this, but Joshy Boy called me out, said that's a stupid headline that Cinderella's been dead since last year's March Madness. Well, Josh, you know I love you, buddy, but we had a 9 seed and an 11 seed in the Sweet 16 this year, so I wouldn't necessarily say she was dead, but she was certainly on life support. We'll get to that later.
Yes, but I think y'all brought up a good point. Is at some point, the trust you say Tennessee media has with at least Barnes on the basketball side, that has seemingly been lost with Kentucky basketball and the biggest outlets, right? And so when local as well as national, right? There, I mean, it just the narratives are too closely together where there's not something weird going on there where it's like there's clearly, whether they're trying to get back in, they're trying to force information out of the basketball program, or, you know, we saw it with Cal where it's just like it gets so loud where we just kind of forced out, right? Cal played the game for a long time and then all of a sudden he didn't. And now the losses became something and media took it. It was time for him to go, right? That same thing didn't happen with Stoops, even though he was underperforming for a long time because he was coming on shows and doing these things, right? And then it got too loud, and sure enough, he just had to go. But yeah, there's got to be some trust there, and you know, I won't be in the space, right? It's just I'm not going to be doing that. But I do think Pope had to, whether it's KSR or somebody, like, listen, we got to get on the same page here. You got to have that sit down. There's got to be some humility on both sides of like, I'm going to give you some things, right? It can't get out. It cannot get out, right? And if it does, then you can cut them off, and you know, whatever it becomes, you know, where, you know, even if you just downright say like, we tried to play ball and they cannot do it. They cannot hold on this information. It leaks, and so we're no longer doing the thing. You see NFL guys do it all the time. So it happens in other sports. But he's got to figure. He, being Pope, has to figure out a way to say, I'm going to give somebody some information so that at least our perspective is getting out there, because right now it's singular focused on all the things that Pope is doing wrong. And it's, you know, some of the fan base who are trying to stay positive, or at least stay neutral, right? You got your Tristan Ferris's out there, your Dylan Ballards, Trace, those guys who are trying to at least stay neutral and be like, this doesn't look good. And I really don't have a lot of positive things to say, but I just got to believe Pope's doing the thing behind the scenes. But the biggest voices are carrying of Pope has no effing idea what he's doing, right? And that's really, really tearing up the fan base, and it's going to make going into this season not fun at all. The last thing I'll say before I move.
That's a good point of you saying, like, you know, hearing from their perspective, like, we have no idea what the intent was of any of these guys that they've signed at all. Like, usually you would see statements from the coach, or there would be a press conference by now, or just something. But like, we don't even know the thought process behind any of the players that they've got out of the portal, which isn't, you know, that's not something. I'm not saying that Coach Pope has to do that, but you know, it probably would be helpful to do that with what's going on now. Like, you got to try to spur some positivity in the fan base. And instead, like what you're mentioning, when it's just dead silent, and then you're getting some of these, like, maybe they're super happy with Zoom and Alex Wilkins and all these guys. But, you know, just from our perspective, it's like, oh, those are the second or third options we got out of the portal and blah, 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 blah. And then we just fill the void with whatever we want to. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we made contact with Zoom first, And I know we brought in Rob Wright, but the narrative is, oh, you missed, so had to go backtrack for Zoom, right? And it came out that we were losing ground, and it almost seemed like it was a scramble to get him back, right? That could have been the plan all along, and we just, hey, does Rob want to play with Zoom? But again, we don't know, right? So there is some fault there. I can't sit there and say, hey, Pope is winning this strategic communication battle, the information operations game. He is losing right now, and he's got to figure out how to get it back in. I will say, though, I know a lot of people were down on the McBride commitment and announcement. I put it out there. I was having a conversation with somebody. They're like, hey, if Stokes doesn't commit, when do you think we're going to get McBride? Do you think that affects it? And it was noon Eastern that I put out there. It's like, if I'm Pope in Kentucky, I'm announcing McBride before the Tyron Stokes thing, right? Because no matter when you announce McBride, losing out on Stokes was going to damper the McBride commitment, right? You had to at least put something out there where, you're, hey, don't look over here. Don't watch NBA Inside. Don't do that. Look over here on X where we got this cool stretch 4 who can shoot 40% from 3, right? And it did work somewhat. Like if you go back and look, there are people who are posting highlight videos of McBride and reposting and whatnot. Now, did it get buried in the Stokes thing? Yes. Was it always going to get buried in the Stokes thing? Yes. Like unless you were going to drop that thing May 15th, it was always going to get buried in the Stokes not committing and just completely flaming all of BBN, right? So I don't mind the play. It does stink for McBride. I notice he didn't actually get his moment. I think he will eventually get it. And I think to your point, Drew, like you have to come out and talk about these players to give them their moment. I don't know what y'all are laughing at right now, so please tell me. I'm trying to stay even. I was literally just locked in on Drew. I was locked in at Drew. What'd he say? Saul, you all got the 508th rate transfer day. Focus what he wants. That's right. Hey, and he sees a demon. He's a diamond in the rough. Yeah. Okay. Transition over to the Tennessee side of things. I saw Barnes is out on the road doing his recruiting, trying to find these last 2 roster spots. And Juke Harris, as of yesterday, I saw on 3 crystal ball, and I think it was actually a specific dude gave a crystal ball to from Michigan to Tennessee. So not their AI generated, but like a no joke insider say he's going to Tennessee. How do y'all feel about that? Because Juke Harris is a massive, out of all the big commitments you got in the portal, he's going to be the biggest. He's going to be the dude who can go get a bucket for you. How do you feel this plays out in the next couple of days?
So for me, first, just the dude had a comment a little bit ago. Tennessee's a football school, so Barnes doesn't have to worry about dealing with the crazies and all that. Generally, that's good, but expectation has been trending up, and now you've had the monetary investment. So crazies will come along with the monetary investment. So it probably still won't be what it will be from football, and nobody's trying to say it's going to be what it is at Kentucky. But heat and pressure and outside noise or noise from a larger portion of the fan base, I think if he's not able to fulfill, everybody's hopes and dreams of a Final Four this year, will be louder than it has ever been before. And Tennessee fans are loud enough. So no, it's definitely not football, but I think if Barnes isn't able to answer the mail, he'll hear it a little more. I was actually thinking today, and Hammer, I didn't get to talk to you about it. Usually I text you about this stuff, but I was texting it in our group chat. We talked about it for a few shows. Like Barnes has clearly made a switch from defense to offense. Like we've gotten all these dudes who are 15 point per game plus scorers. So Juke would absolutely be our biggest scorer and all that. And I want Juke. Don't misconstrue this. I'm just thinking about how is it going to play out? There's only one ball, and I don't know enough about Juke. What does his efficiency look like? Because to me, the fit has got to be like with Kevin Durant and the Warriors, because you had too many other good dudes. So Kevin Durant still balled out, but it's because his efficiency was crazy high, not because his volume was crazy high. And I don't know with people like Terrence Hill and Day and Harrelson and all these other guys that we just got 50 shots for you a game, so I want Juke. I just hope the fit can be there efficiency wise as well. But from my understanding, they're still kind of taking a look at the NBA, and I don't know what he's willing to accept from the NBA. But I think yesterday ESPN had him mocked as number 33. So if that hits all your hopes and dreams from when you were a kid, then he'll take it. If it doesn't, then I think if he does play in college, I think it'll be at Tennessee. So we'll see. We all know it's a weaker class next year. You got a better chance to get a little higher up after a good year. But I hope when Juke comes in, he will be the man. I just hope he can be with some high efficiency.
Yeah, and there's been obviously all the chatter. It's been not to the level that Tyron Stokes was for Kentucky, but now that some of the other pieces have been in place, and then Juke's kind of been in the spotlight and the centerpiece of the conversation around Tennessee's basketball effort. I just forgot what I was going to say.
All right. Well, while you're thinking about that, just a little nugget. He and Harrelson do have the same agent. So
thank you. That just reminded me of what I was going to say.
There you go.
Has nothing to do with that, but it reminded me.
As long as it works.
Yeah, that's it. So I didn't pay a lot of attention to it because I'm kind of like you guys in the sense of just tell me, is he going to play here or is he not? Like, I'm not going to hang every waking hour checking updates, and every time my phone dings and it's ESPN or it's On3, or which I don't subscribe to those jokers, but anything like that, I'm not just hanging by on every little whim and breath that comes along about Juke Harris. But there was one name that had something to say about it that caught my eye because I do respect him. I do feel that he does have a little bit more of an inside grasp on what's going on in that athletic department, and that's Chris Lowe. And he came out and said that without saying it looks like he's going to commit, Chris Lowe spoke to it looks like he's going to commit to Tennessee. It looks like Tennessee's going to win this, this recruitment. So that's when I kind of just said, okay, well, if Chris thinks we're going to get him, and we've seen a first, now second expert prediction for Tennessee, and now On3 even has him as like a 99% chance or something ridiculous like that. At this point, if that be the case, to everything T just said, I do agree. But I also trust Rick Barnes. He will figure out how to make that work because I've kind of joked about it and thrown up some Thanos graphics and Infinity Stones and stuff like that. It's not just about going out and getting those superstars. It's about him getting guys that he knows he can work in his system. And it is a major shift from what we had on our roster last year, even the past couple of years. And I know we've had some big names. We've had, Chaz Lanier. We've had Dalton Connect. Gillespie was massive for us this year. Nate Ament obviously is about to be a lottery pick. But he didn't just go out and get dudes because of their ranking or their NIL value because he got a bunch of money. He went and got guys that he knows he can make efficient and work in his system. For crying out loud, he took this team last year to the third straight Elite Eight. So I trust Rick Barnes with who he's going and getting. The piece about, he's getting a bunch of scores, the defense is going to suffer. And it may not be as good as it's been. It wasn't as good last year as it was the year before. But one thing you will do if you play for Rick Barnes, you will play defense. I don't care how many buckets you can fill up. If you don't play defense, you won't be on the floor much. So at this point, I just have to completely trust Rick Barnes in his decision-making and his portal efforts because, the dude left Tennessee, went to California, and came back to Tennessee just to go talk to Juke. So
you mentioned Nate Ament, and it looks like he's going to stay in the draft. He's continuing to climb up draft boards. Do you think that had something to play with Juke of like, all right, Nate's gone. We have a couple extra $1 million. We can up the ante for Juke and pull him away from Michigan because we just said money talks, right? He could have been leading Michigan. Rick Barnes a great coach. I got an extra mil, 1.5 mil. I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out there. Get you to come to Tennessee. All right, coach, I like the offer. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ignore that fact because we did have that money set aside that if Nate were to come back, we were told very early in the process, if he decided that he wanted to play for Rick Barnes next year, they would make the money available to him. It would happen. So they had that money. Now, whether they officially had it to spend or it was reserved just for Nate, don't know. We may never know. But that's the one thing, as T was talking, the other thing about it, obviously we've been historically a football school. Kentucky historically has been a basketball school. And so for us, not ever making the Final Four, there you go, Big Blue Nation. There you go. We haven't been to the Final Four. Oh, no, the sky's falling. We haven't had a focus on basketball throughout the history of our program, except for a handful of years with Ray Mears. Don DeVoe sniffed the Sweet 16, and then Bruce Pearl got us to our first Elite Eight. Well, Rick Barnes has taken that and elevated it to a level we've never seen at Tennessee. So we're about to spend football NIL level money on this basketball team. So the expectation is certainly going to be different this season, because the one thing that no matter how many great recruits we get, no matter what kind of star ratings they have, no matter what they're rated in the transfer portal, when you start advertising that we've got a $15, $20 million basketball roster, you damn well better believe that the Tennessee fan base is going to want some return on that investment. Even though it ain't their money to start with, they're still going to have expectations that probably aren't going to be very realistic. It's not going to be Kentucky level like Final Four or burn the place down, but it's certainly going to be there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw it 2 years ago with Duke.
Nowadays.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't and Rando, you know this, and Drew, you'll eventually learn this, but everybody listening, me and T, we crack on and make fun and we do this, we poke at each other. We do it off the air probably more than we do it on the air. Seriously. We've never made a Final Four. And you know what? That's okay. But all of the history that you have and all the Final Fours and all the net championships and all the banners that are hanging in Rupp, I have 100% respect for that, because it's been one of the most dominant college basketball programs in history. But y'all, that is just that. It is history. It is a completely different ball game now. And all of that lore, and I'm old, okay? So I respect the history and the tradition and the program value and things like that. But these kids don't. They don't give a shit how many banners you got hanging. They don't care how many trophies you've got in the trophy case. They don't care how many national championships or Final Fours that your coach has been to. You know what they care about? How much you going to pay me, coach?
Yep.
So unfortunately, that's just where we are.
Yeah. It's what can he pay me? What can the coach do for me as far as getting me to where I want to go in the future? 4 years ago, AJ DeBanza was not going to BYU.
Mm-mm.
There was never a chance in hell he was going to BYU.
Yeah, and then dudes from Rutgers year before last. There ain't no way they'd ever step foot in Piscataway, New Jersey. But guess what happened? Yeah, big fat NIL checks came. Like that big check that Dirty Hippie got in semi-pro. Like it was a massive check.
But that being said, I agree with everything you're saying. But that being said, Louisville legacy basketball program still doing very well in the portal. They, I think their last get was their best get. They finally got a true bucket getter, in my opinion. Everything else were just kind of role players. I really saw their roster stacking up like ours ended up stacking up last year. But they're winning that battle, right? Kansas, they spent a bunch of money, but they got Tay Kenny and Tyron Stokes. Duke is not having a problem with it, right? So like your legacy basketball programs are still figuring out the NIL era, and unfortunately Kentucky has not caught up to it, right? Mitch Barnes was stubborn.
It's kind of the way SEC football has been, which is why at the top the Big Ten has passed, and they sit atop at the very top, and why the Big 12 is even making themselves relevant because the SEC kind of tried to be like, we're the SEC, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares, man. Who's got the money?
Yeah, we don't care. You won 12 straight national championships as a conference. Nobody gives a rat's ass about that.
Yeah,
right.
It's the name on the back of the jersey that matters now, not the one on the front. If you don't believe me, and Chainsaw, you called it out. Who won the national championship in football last season?
Yeah,
Indiana. Indy freaking Hoosiers won a national championship in football. I didn't think I'd ever live long enough to see the day. So, yeah, you're right. It does. None of that stuff matters. All the tradition, none of that matters anymore. It's all about who's going to pay who, and they catch lightning in a bottle, just like Kurt Signetti did.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So the same way SEC football has to catch up is the way and adjust is the way Kentucky theoretically needs to. I don't know. I mean, if you got a $22 million NIL roster, then it seems like you're doing something, but I know that's just hearsay. But there is some kind of adjustment that needs to be made. And it's going to be difficult with Pope, who is such who like bleeds blue, literally, because he's Kentucky through and through. And it's going to be a difficult adjustment for him in particular to make, I think, because for him, it's the brand. But
yes, 100% right there, T.
Yeah. Well, and on that point, too, is the way that it seems like what he's trying to do is the same way that like he played and got recruited at Kentucky in 1995. Like instead we're in 2026.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
The Kentucky and Duke and Kansas, like those names still matter just a tad, but you got to find a perfect balance with it. Like you just can't lay into this is Kentucky. You can do that a little bit, but you got to more cater to like what everybody else is doing in the NIL era of like, this is your money. This is what we want to do for you. This is what we want to do, for you individually. This is what we want to do as a team. Like you got to find that perfect balance. Instead, we can't keep recruiting like we're in 1995.
Yeah. Because as much as everybody wants to think their name is, it is what you just said, Drew. It's legacy. It's historic. Honest to goodness, there's maybe 5. There's Duke, Carolina, Kentucky. I'm not going to throw you guys in there because it's facts.
Kansas recently.
Kansas, and maybe UConn recently because UCLA used to be on that list. They ain't won nothing in years. It's decades. There's generations of people that don't know anything about UCLA basketball because they're not relevant in this era. So the blue bloods, there's, like I said, those 4 or 5 schools, those are the only names like, man, yeah, I'd love to play at Duke. I'd love to play at Kentucky. I'd love to play at UConn because those are the teams that in these kids' lifetimes, they've seen actually do something, right? But when the other school comes calling, when, Mississippi State, let's just throw them in there, comes calling with a $4 million check and Kentucky's only offering 1.5, well, what would you do?
I'm going to start Vegas.
I'm sorry, right? So it just doesn't carry the same weight. And I think Drew, you hit it on the head. Is Mark Pope is from this program. He won a championship in this program 30 years ago. So in his mind, that's what Kentucky is. His perception of it is that, and it's a privilege and an honor to put that uniform on. And that is 100% true, but not to these kids.
Yeah. So to Marshall's point here, I'm not saying that Kentucky is a football school, but to keep up with what college sports is now, it doesn't matter if you're a blue blood or not. Kentucky is the revenue. Not Kentucky. Football is the revenue driver, right? And so even if you're Kentucky and you care more about basketball, you're going to have to invest more heavily into football than you ever have before because you need it to drive the revenue to feed to feed basketball. So I don't know if I can call it I know he's kind of joking and maybe it's not a football school, but y'all are definitely about to start seeing a whole lot more, I think, my prediction, attention and focus and investment on the gridiron.
Yeah,
because because that's the only way that you're going to be able to sustain and keep up with where you really want to be on the hardwood.
Yeah, and I don't know what the numbers are, but the TV contracts for football and the TV contracts for basketball they're in different stratospheres apart.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about billions versus millions, right? So, and that's a big difference.
Yeah.
But even money aside, we just spent, the first 30 minutes of the show part of it was talking about Pope and the fan base and media relations and whatnot. With every Pope miss, Stein's coming in here with a 4 or 5 star recruit right behind it, right? So like you sit there, you're scrolling through and you're like, dang, Tyron Stokes missed. You scroll through the next day, 4-star safety lands at Kentucky. And it's like, and that's not just one instance. It's happening over and over and over again. Stein's cooking. And, you got a lot of people who are really, really looking forward to August and not looking forward to November, right? So, and if he actually wins, my goodness. I mean, he could effectively do the Signetti thing in full takeover. I'm not predicting that, but I'm saying like it's there. Like all of the pieces are pretty like the stew's brewing right now where Stein can legitimately like take over this fan base if he is able to really figure out how to, keep recruiting well and win football games and become legitimately relevant, and not just preseason relevant in SEC and, national football attention. So yeah, it's got to get figured out. It is a revenue driver. And so far Stein is winning on all fronts when it comes to football. With basketball,
hardball series. Hey, they did cut tennis. They like, yo, give me that 700,000 back.
Yeah. Hey, I've said it on here before. I'm gonna say it again. You can cut every other sports revenue and just feed basketball, football, and I'm gonna keep baseball in there because I'm just a baseball guy. But I mean, seriously, make everything else a club sport. I don't give a damn. Feed the football program, feed the basketball program. That's where your money's going to be made. That's why the Big Ten won the championship in both those sports this past cycle.
Yeah, or just, and I'm sure it's probably like this anyways, but if you're the schools who have to divvy up the revenue share money, like don't put any money of that revenue share pot into any other sport other than football and basketball. And if there's any player that's marketable or a local person, marketable person, whatever, in any other sport, then you can find the NIL deals for that. But there's no reason to use your free money as an SEC school that you can play with to the $22.5 million. Why would you put that anywhere else other than football and basketball?
Yeah, I mean, we'll give you, you can go sign tennis rackets, or you can go pimp golf bags, or you can, whatever, go to, sell chlorine at a swimming pool supplier and make you $10,000 in NIL money, that way. But you ain't getting a dime from the school, man. Because it has no return on investment, zero return on investment. And honestly, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Have any one of us four ever got on here and beat our chest because, oh man, our cricket team won a conference championship this year?
I bragged about us
cares.
Microsoft Excel championships.
I was going right there. That's right up there with that Microsoft Excel. What?
We were pretty excited about women's volleyball getting to the championship.
Yeah.
And
it's okay to be excited about it. Just don't give me any damn money.
Yeah. No, and how you manipulate that is going to be interesting for sure. Because you do have to make tough decisions. And Harbaugh was right. I thought Nara was a 5-star. He's a 4-star, number 2 quarterback, but he is a 4-star. So Harbaugh keeping me in check there. But still,
if he's the number 2 quarterback, he should be a 5-star at some point.
Let's get out though. But he's still, again, point taken. Stein's still doing very, very well in recruiting, and Pope ain't. But to close out the brand thing with basketball, I do think all y'all are correct with when it comes to big names. If you're sitting there selling, it's Kentucky, that's why you should come here, money second, you're wrong. Like that is just, you cannot do it that way unless you are. And, Cal unfortunately had a lot of great recruiting classes here, and the post-COVID couldn't win with them. So I'm not saying it's the model for success, but Cal could legitimately sell, don't trip over nickels getting to millions, I think was what he quoted, right? Because he's I'm going to give you this amount of money in NIL. And he's on, he was in Arkansas and he did an interview saying like, we don't have this big NIL disparity between our players. I don't know how true that is, but he doesn't want that locker room thing. But he does know Acuff is going to make way more money than most people so he can take Acuff and say, listen, dude, you're going to get millions of $1 million as the top 5 draft pick if you come play for me in my system. You've seen it happen whatever his quote is now, with the billions of dollars that his players have made in the league. Pope can't do that. So he's got to do it differently, right? But where the brand does play, I believe, is those ancillary pieces who can be studs with Wilkins and McBride in the portal. That's when you can sell the brand. Dude, you are coming from Furman to play at Kentucky. Ansley Almanar, you're coming from FDU to come to Kentucky, right? So, yes, you might get 500 extra K from somebody else, but playing in Lexington for the blue and white is going to make you more money down the road. If you're special here, even make a big shot against Tennessee to win us a game, right? That's going to carry for a long time. So you can sell that against those players or for those players, but top 20 recruits, that ain't it. And that's the way he's trying to do it because, beating my chest, I'm a cat. Rick Pitino got me here, and this is what it is. Playing in Rupp Arena is so majestic. It'll be the great experience of your life. All that may be true, but if it doesn't come with the right amount of money, it doesn't matter.
That should be like the third selling point of recruitment: money or fit. The other one, number 2, and then you can sell Kentucky on number 3 to like close it down. Of like, here's your role. We got this $4 million check. And then, you get to play at Kentucky too. Like that should be the process of how it goes, not the complete opposite.
Yeah, and stop casting this wide net, right? There should be guys that you focus on, right? There should be, I don't know what the number is, but right now it seems like, and their agents are going to put out Kentucky is interested, and these lists are going to be long and long and long because, they want to be able to compete and say, but the actual list of things that are players that you're interested in should be limited, maybe 20. I don't know, just throw a number out there. And these are the guys who will fit at each position. We need 2 combo guards. We need a power forward. We need a center to back up Moreno. These who are going to, and if anything else trickles in, and you just have to get like, hey, this agent hits you, hey, we're really interested in Kentucky, come play for you. Oh shit. All right, let's put him on but there should be a very small list of folks that you're focused on. And then you could really hammer home, this is our money for you. And it's not like, Dan, do we give the money to this guy? Do we give the money to this guy? Should we hold it in our pocket because we don't know who's coming out? Like, that is where I think the Pope plan has failed this offseason.
Yeah, that was a bad little sequence there, Joshy boy.
Yeah, I got it on right now. But shout out just a dude. I'm on my soapbox. I'm about to get off it now. But you just brought up NBA. We're watching the Lakers game. I'm hoping the Rockets can get this thing done. What are y'all's thoughts about this new NBA draft lottery thing to try to help teams from taking it? In my opinion, I'll let you guys talk. This is the dumbest shit Adam Silver has done in a very, very long time. But
that's saying something. That is saying
you're doing something new.
Yeah. Okay. So, go ahead, Hammer. Tell us about it. It's so stupid, but Hammer, tell us about it.
Okay,
like it's different than the Powerball system thing.
Well, they're calling it the 3-2-1. So I'm going to do my best, and I'm doing this off of notes, Drew. So I'm going to do my best to get through this.
Yeah, I haven't even heard about this. So.
Yeah, so basically what it is, the lottery is going to go up from 14 teams to 16. So you'll have 10 teams that completely miss the playoffs, and this is where the screwy starts. Then you'll have the number 9 and number 10 seeds in both conferences, and then you'll have the losers of the 7 versus 8 play-in games. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, the teams with the 3 worst records, so 30, 29, 28. There's 30 teams in NBA still, right?
Yeah.
They would fall into what they're sort of referring to as a relegation zone. They will only receive 2 lottery balls each. So that is to try to deter the teams from just going out there and, playing cheerleaders, water boys, and the guy sitting in the third row. Then the 7 remaining teams that missed the postseason would get 3. So in reverse order of record, the first 3 worst teams get 2 balls. Then 4 through 10 would get 3 balls. 9 and 10 seeds would also get 2. And then the loser of the 7 versus 8 games would get 1. So you're going to have 37 lottery balls divvied up with 16 teams in the drawing.
Yeah,
and then there's even more to it, to where you can't have consecutive number one overall picks.
Yep.
You can't do that. You can't have you can't have top 5 picks for 3 years in a row. So top 5 limit. A franchise is restricted from earning 3 top 5 picks within any 3-year span. Now that I asked, so like the Rockets team right now wouldn't exist. You go back in time, KD's team with Westbrook and Harden wouldn't exist. Now, if you are a great franchise like OKC and you trade those picks and you look into the future, right, and say, hey, these teams probably going to suck, and you stack first-round pick, do you get punished for that and go, oh, this guy pulled a lottery ball? Would that get punished? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then if you look at the standings for the NBA, so the Eastern Conference, Washington was at the bottom with 17 wins, Indiana 19, Brooklyn 20. So those are your top. Chicago had 31 wins. So you're talking about a 2-win difference in between the Eastern Conference and then the Western Conference. You're talking about a 1-win difference. 22 wins for Utah, Sacramento 22, Memphis 25, 26. So if you put that together, you're looking at literally a win or 2 difference between being the 3 worst teams or getting that extra ball. So what you're still tanking. You just go, hey, we're going to try harder on a couple extra games to be in that 4th or 5th spot. This is, I don't understand how this fixes tanking. And it seems like they just try way too hard to make the process way worse.
Yeah. And there's also another couple of little could be significant tweaks down the road is teams would no longer be able to protect picks in trades for slots 12 through 15. So Oklahoma City, as we all know, is sitting there with number 12 because of some crazy way the Clippers lost the play-in. So that meant Oklahoma City gets a number 12 pick. They end up with a lottery pick. So that would probably go away. And then ultimately, Adam Silver would have increased authority to punish teams that were perceived to be tanking, which would be 100% subjective. I don't know how you could objectively determine that. He can change their lottery odds or even modify their draft pick himself. So, and I'm no conspiracy theorist, but Dallas had the absolute smallest chance of winning the lottery number 1 pick last year, and look what happened. So if he gets to have final say or gets to dole out a punishment saying, oh, well, I'm going to take one of your lottery balls, or you're not going to be allowed to pick any higher than 5th, then I think it's getting way out there. And you've already got a pretty poor perception of overall of how your league runs. And then you're going to pull something stunt like that. That would just cause outrage across the board. Now, keep in mind too that this is not officially in place. It still has to be voted on. The last I read, there's a vote going to be on May 28th with the Board of Governors, and it would take 23 of the 30 votes required to pass it. I don't know. I haven't seen really anything on what the chatter with that is, because this, I think, is fairly new to the public. So I don't know that anybody's really got any deep dive information on what teams or, general managers, things like that are saying about it. So it would only be in place for about 3 years. Their CBA runs out, I think, the 29-30 season anyway. So I think this would probably be just like a 3-season test or so. And then they'll change it to probably something more stupid then. But it is a complete mess. Like it's so convoluted, and there's some things that could happen. And I don't know. NBA's tough to watch to begin with. This is just going to make it worse.
I actually don't mind the current lottery system. The only problem is we don't see it. The only thing you see is them opening up the envelopes. If they would just show like what goes on behind the scenes, or them dropping the balls.
Yeah, because there's no checks and balances.
Yeah,
it's just, last year. It's just like replay. Yeah, last year. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that was absolutely 100%.
And I think that whole thing was an NBA inside job with just randomly trading Luka to the Lakers.
You get Luka to LA, so we get Luka and LeBron for ratings, and we'll give you the number 1 pick.
And then when LeBron retires, we already have a superstar in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
And then we'll just give you the up and coming next superstar in Cooper Flag to replace that.
100%. I mean,
and
then with this thing about Silver having the authority to modify draft picks or punish you in your lottery position, I mean, that just the horse is already out of the barn anyway. But I mean, that just almost validates that we've seen. All
he did was make legal what he's already been doing.
Yeah,
the NBA draft lotteries rigged, NFL scripted. Man, it's all. It's all bad.
What are you going to tell me next, Rando? That wrestling ain't real?
I would never.
That's what I was going to say. Everything's turning into WWE.
Shout out, T. What you got any thoughts on it?
I'm not familiar enough with it. I think this year was so drastically bad that you had to do something. So I don't know if I necessarily think this is the right answer or that this fixes it, but at least they didn't stay stagnant. I'll give them that. I mean, we'll see if it gets voted on and enacted, but you're at least trying to do something and you're not standing pat. Other than that, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this, so I have no clue what it'll play out like. So we'll see. But at least they tried something. That's all. I don't have much else than that.
Yeah. And speaking of NBA, I'll throw this in there too because it kind of bothered me earlier this week. I think Con Knippel got absolutely robbed for Rookie of the Year. I thought that was a gimme to Flag.
I mean, it was a 2-man race pretty much the whole season, right?
Did Cooper Flag win it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Con Knippel was awesome this year.
Same with
DJ Edgecombe, really. He was great too.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
Hey, I'm down for that. I'm down for that.
And you know why I think you have a good point with Knippel is he was a massive part of a huge turnaround. Like nobody's ever thought, taking a second breath about thinking about Charlotte. Now all of a sudden, they're much better. They're competitive. They're in the play-in at least now. Like they're making noise. Dallas is they're still just kind of trying to figure out who they are. So Cooper Flag, absolutely stellar year, but you didn't contribute to anything of note. Knippel, also a stellar year, and you're part of a huge turnaround, or like you're a foundational building block.
They got smoked in that play-in game.
Yeah, I mean, because they're still not a good enough team, but he clearly has a lot to do with the fact that they're at least in the right trajectory. They're on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, he was a big reason why they made it to be in that position. All Cooper Flag did, and no disrespect, he's a heck of a player, had a good season, but his biggest accomplishments this year was 251 and 145-point game at the end of the season when everybody else wasn't playing anybody either. Mm-hmm. Con Knippel did it all year long and helped get his team in a position to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
and that's what got him. I thought it was
thing is terrible.
Knippel was far well in ahead. And then he had those 2 very good games in the recency bias. And again, we just talked about it. Mm-hmm. It's better for the league for Cooper Flag to win it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just
Con Knippel winning it didn't fit the narrative. So
yeah. And as soon as he had those 2 big games at the end of the season, okay, boom, the odds shifted right away.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, we got
it. Flipped immediately. Immediately. Yeah.
I mean, I think at one point, Flag was like minus 400 something for Rookie of the Year, and then the 150-point game raised it to like 200, and then overnight the 45-point game, boom, he's a favorite.
Yeah, because I think he started the season like minus 1,000, and then it sort of fluctuated and up and down. But as soon as he had that first, I think it was a 51-point game, but when he had that second one, that was it.
Yep, it
was over.
Well, the worst thing to happen on the internet today, in my personal opinion, was NCAA extension. Yes. Tell me what are we doing?
it's interesting. So I was listening to them talk about it on The Animal this morning, and Brian Rice, who hosts the show with Eric Ainge, just always seems to have all this inside information. And what he was saying is that even the TV stations were telling the NCAA, like, hey, we're not going to expand your TV contracts. We don't want this. We know the viewers don't want this. Like, literally the feedback from all the directions to the NCAA was like, nobody wants this. We don't want this. And then they still did it because, I mean, we know the NCAA, they're greedy. They think it equals more money. And it's just a bad move. I mean, when your sponsors and stuff are telling you don't do it and you still do it. But the thing is, in the end, it doesn't matter until you lose something from it. And that's the same with, like, Tennessee's everybody's all mad about Danny White in the entertainment district, but he's probably not going to lose anything from it. Like, Neyland's still going to sell out and all that kind of stuff. And so then he'll sit up on his high horse and feel like he did something. And so with the NCAA, like, unless ratings for the entire tournament tank or something, they're not going to care that everybody says that we don't want it. So they're going to do what they want to do anyway. They're grasping on to any sort of relevancy, you know, that's on Lifeline anyway. So they're just kind of trying to do whatever they can to stack the coffers for however long they can.
So if you weren't paying attention to the news that broke, I believe this morning, was it this morning or last night that this came out?
This morning is when I heard it.
Yeah,
I think it was
this morning. So
it
okay,
might have been.
So it might have been, yeah. So 76 teams now. There is no more play-in. There is what they call the opening round. So the current first four will be placed in an opening round featuring 24 teams playing 12 games on Tuesday and Wednesday. The main bracket will still stay 64 teams. The 12 winners from the opening round will advance to join 52 teams already slotted into the main draw. So here's the thing. It's not going to – when the college football playoff went from 4 to 12, guess what? You still had the controversy of this team should have made it, this team got it. Just because you could put 50% of the teams in the tournament, and you're still going to be like, no, this team got snubbed. Like, you're never going to fix that. The only way to
that's exactly what I tweeted. Like, whoever the first four out or whatever are still going to feel slighted.
Yeah, and you're not going to get, like, if you want to fix that, then just be clearly in, right? If you're living on the bubble and you don't get out, sorry about it. You know, the fan base will be pissed, but if you want to do it, win your conference tournament or just be clearly in from the regular season, then you don't got to worry about it. And then when it comes to, they're like, oh, it's opening the door for Cinderellas, as I saw the argument. No, it's not. The teams that are going to get in are going to be your mid-level SEC, ACC. Like, those are the ones that are going to get in the tournament anyways, because they bring the most money. And, and if there are Cinderellas, quote unquote, that go late, it's just going to be one of those teams that gets hot, right? Yes, you had a Santa Clara this year. Hammer mentioned 7 and 9 seeds advancing on. But again, I was on a basketball school, but I wouldn't put them as like a Cinderella. They're not an FDU or a Florida Atlantic or something. You
can't come from a power conference. Even if you are a Cinderella, you can't come from a power conference and be a Cinderella.
Yeah, you don't get that same tag. So I don't think this fixes that. I don't think it puts these other lower level schools in there. You're still only going to get 1 or 2 from your mid majors based off who wins the conference, and if you are in the WCC or the MAC or down there at the ACC or whatever, Atlantic Coast Conference, maybe you get a couple in based off who you play and strength of schedule and whatnot, and your out of conference schedule. But all it's doing is just going to put more Power 4, Power 5 conferences into the tournament to try to generate more money, and it's just muddy it up. Like this was arguably, and I think an easy argument, the best thing in at least sports in the United States. Like U.S. sports was the best thing you had. It was the best event. And he didn't have to touch it for it to be great, and he go and muddied it up. I think it's just silly. It's just something that shouldn't have been touched. But like you said, T, it's just greed, man, and it will eventually draw money. And if, in 5 years from now, it's just going to be normal, and it's going to be forgotten about. And then it'll be a talk again of, okay, so how do we get 116 teams in this thing, But Hammer, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I think it's stupid.
Boom.
And to elaborate on that, now, we have 31 Division I conferences, which means and has meant and it's just like this NBA nonsense. This isn't necessarily official. Like, it was announced that they're taking steps towards that. We're just going to require a vote too. It's going to be, the selection committees. It's going to be their board of regions or directors or whatever it is. But everything I'm hearing about this, nobody's opposing it. So more than likely, this is going to happen. We had 31 automatic qualifiers. And by automatic qualifier, that means you are in the tournament. Not anymore. There will be 4 16 seeds that were automatic qualifiers that will now have to play their way into the field of 64. And I'm sorry, that's horseshit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All this is going to do 2 things. One, it's going to make the NCAA and TV and everybody else just a boatload more money. And it will possibly give some of these guys that are in mid-power 4, 5 conferences or, high mid-majors one more chance to be seen on TV. That's it. This does not benefit anybody other than the NCAA. But we shouldn't be surprised, because any professional league, if they make changes or do anything, it's going to benefit them, not anybody else. So same kind of thing with this. The other problem I have with it is it's going to take away 2 more automatic qualifiers out of this field. It was 54 between at-large and or not automatic qualifiers, but auto tournament teams. It's going to drop it by 2. It's going to be 52 now instead of 54, and you're going to have 24 teams that are going to be fighting to get in. And they can call it whatever nonsense they want to call it. The tournament doesn't start until there's 64 names in a bracket that I can fill out and donate money to whichever pool I'm participating in. That's when the tournament starts. So, and I think it's stupid anyway, because I didn't even like the 4-team play-in game. The play-in is the damn season. That's what determines who the 64 best teams are to be in this tournament. Why we got to do just all this nonsense? Oh, we'll do 4. Well, now we're going to do 8. Well, now we're going to do 16. Well, eventually it's going to get to the whole damn season is going to be a tournament. And then when we get to March, it's going to be the best 64 teams left. It's stupid. I hate it.
Yeah, I don't like it. And my last argument about like the mid-major help and maybe extended, these teams that go on runs late, they do it because they're 5 or 6 best players are clicking. Like they just don't have the depth for 12 teams to go and play that extra game. And then the true first round of the tournament is going to lose its luster. And all this is going to do is later on trickle down to where, maybe it's not all the blue bloods or whatever your top, 1 to 4 seeds are every time, but all it is just going to, in my personal opinion, make it to where those later rounds, you don't have the higher seeds playing those games to bring, the interest in from your fans of that fan base, right? Like I wasn't watching Florida, Iowa because I care about any of those teams. I was watching because I was in there and I was praying to God they were going to beat Florida, right? And that's why a lot of people are watching it. When we are playing Santa Clara, they're not watching because they enjoy Kentucky or real big Santa Clara fans. Like the thing that pushed us into the top 5 game of the tournament was because I'm a Kentucky fan. Or I want to see Kentucky lose against Santa Clara, and then Santa Clara builds some momentum with viewership because they just beat Kentucky and they want to see how far they go, right? Just like Oakland and Jack Cole could get a few years back.
And St. Peter's.
Yes, thank you, appreciate that one. Any more? You got Kansas State. Yeah,
give me a minute.
It's silly. I don't know why they did it. They should have just not touched it. Sounds like they were told not to touch it, and they decided to kind of F with it anyways. But on that note,
it is just the fact that like the mid majors are going to get screwed in this deal. Like,
Yeah,
I think the 16 seeds already were. Like, why were I actually like the play-in games? I know, Hammer, you said you didn't, but they're kind of fun to watch, and they're kind of a little appetizer, for the tournament. But like, I've always said, like, why are 2 16 seeds playing in a play-in game anyways? Like, those teams should be in. And if you were going to have 4 playing games, it should just be all 11 seeds of like the high level mid-major programs, like the SDSUs, those programs that are usually
or bubble team Power Fives, right?
Bubble teams, yeah. But the mid-majors are always getting screwed in this deal. And yeah, granted, they're probably not going to win, but like I just imagine myself being a player or a coach at that level, and I would be like, this is a bunch of bullshit. Like
100%.
We get one opportunity to do this thing, and then we're getting, we don't even get the actual opportunity when the only way that they make in the tournament, and you hear about it all the time, schools make the tournament for the first time in 20, 25, 15 years, and then they have to play themselves into the tournament. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and you're technically you're not in the tournament until you get to the round of 64. Because everything else is play in or whatever they want to call it. They can put whatever verbiage on it they want. The tournament starts when we have 64 teams. The other issue with it is you're going to have – sorry, T. The other issue is how many Power 4 and 5 schools are we going to see barely at 500 in this field of 24 to get in there? It's going to be horrible.
It would have been Oklahoma, Auburn – Stanford. Nobody wants
Arizona State.
Nobody wants to watch those teams in March Madness. Like,
no, nobody wants to see that crap.
Yeah,
if you wanted in the tournament, you should have played better in the regular season.
The bubble has already been so weak the last few years. We don't need to add more of those junky teams in there, unless Kentucky's really bad one year. Then maybe we could slide in.
March Madness is one of like just a general sports fan's favorite sport events of 100%. The year, every year. And people's enjoyment outside of your one particular team that you root for is seeing Cinderellas, seeing upsets, seeing Florida Atlantic do something or Valparaiso do something or Chicago, Loyola or whatever. Like, that's the type of stuff that we as just general sports fans, like people who don't watch college basketball, descend upon March Madness for the chaos. And you're removing a large opportunity for that.
Yeah. When the tournament
and you're
started,
hosting it in Dayton. You're hosting the play-in thing in Dayton. You're not even doing like a cool spot to go like make a destination to.
They'll probably have a West Coast site, but it'll probably be like Sacramento or Fresno or some suburb, Beaverton, Oregon. It'll be some dumbass place that they'll have the other 12.
Yeah, the West Coast Dayton
does say, yeah. There'll be a
West Coast Dayton.
Dayton,
It'll
Ohio
be out west. I guarantee it.
Yeah, you're all right. Dayton, Ohio is expected to be one, and then there'll be a second host city. And then to your point, Hammer, what you said before of like it does have to get voted on. Gemini tells me, in quotes, that is just approvals are described as formalities. So this thing's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Nobody's opposing it in the league offices or any of these other places that require votes. They're all going to pass it through because they see dollar signs and that's all they care about.
It's going to be Reno.
There you go. That's it.
But that's a decent spot though.
That's not a destination though.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I mean, it's a little Vegas.
But then the worst part is like, where could you potentially, because they usually do it in Dayton because it's right in the middle, and then wherever you're located after, if you win, you're kind of right in the middle. You can go wherever and nothing's too crazy long.
Yeah, if they were smart, they'd do it in Vegas.
But then what if a team's in the East region and they got to fly all the way to New Jersey or something?
They don't care.
You're just shit out of luck.
Suck for you.
Yeah.
They're already saying that to all these schools anyways. Like, suck, dude. Sorry about it.
Bro, we've got teams on the West Coast that see the Pacific Ocean having to go to Piscataway, New Jersey to play a game. And I ain't talking about football, baseball. I'm talking about the tennis team and the golf team and the hobby horse team. Oh, no, sorry. That's only at Peabody. All these club level sports are having to fly all the way across the country. to play. So they ain't gonna care that you gotta make a 4-hour flight.
Yep.
True.
Well, we'll go and wrap this thing up. I do want to get Drew's take real quick. As constructed right now, where would you put this roster?
In terms of what? SEC?
Yeah, I mean SEC tournament. Like, how do you see this going? I think we have I'm being very, very realistic when I say this. With Zoom and Wilkins, I think we have upgraded there at the point guard spot over J-Lo in combo guard spot. I will wait and see what they are compared to Otegaway. I love him, but him playing at the 2. I don't know what we have with Cam. I do think Bray's going to be great at that 3 spot. McBride at the 4. I don't know if he is a true starter, but I think he could be special. So I do think we have very good pieces, but we don't have that one like dog yet. I think Malachi year 2 is going to be great. I think we have the pieces. This is a good roster. I think it actually fits Pope's system better than last year's. They don't still have the fancy name on the front of the jersey of where they came from. But that being said, there's a lot of things out there saying this ain't even a tournament team, which I think is drastic. But how do you feel about if we had to go into the season right now with this roster, how do you think we'd do?
I think I would say we're probably at like around 10 or so, maybe in best rosters in the SEC. So we'll probably finish around, probably would finish somewhere between like 8 to 12, maybe in the SEC standings, which would probably give you like an 8 to 11 seed in the tournament. I think this roster is good. My only problem is like you have to hit on huge upgrades from Braden Hawthorne, which obviously we haven't seen him play. Cam Williams has to take a huge leap. Malachi is going to have to take a huge leap. Zoom is really, really talented, but you got to hone him in on playing more winning basketball. Can Wilkins translate, consistently like we saw it against UConn? That's great. Can he do it every single night or majority of nights? I think the bench unit is actually pretty good. Like, I think we actually have for a bench unit, I think it's there. My only problem is like that ceiling or like that difference maker piece. Like, it's just not there right now. And maybe it is, but we just don't know that. Like, maybe Alex Wilkins is going to be a 18 points per game scorer, like just absolute bucket. Like, but we don't know that. But just from what my preseason expectations are, there is a lot of good pieces there, but they gotta go figure something out for like a dude. And I was saying it earlier in the group chat we're in, Rando. Like, I'm not opposed if Cam is the starting 3 or Braden Hawthorne. If Braden Hawthorne plays better, like surely one of those guys is going to hit and develop into being a starting caliber 3 guard or 3 wing. I honestly would say if they can do it, to go find a stud at that 4 spot, because I think the Njai guy, I think he's a high ceiling guy. I just don't know what you get from him as a floor, right? Like, what if he's not playing well? Those things. If you could go get a stud at the 4, then I really like Zoom, Wilkins, Cam or Braden, probably Cam. Then you got a stud 4 and then Malachi. And you got a lot of really good bench pieces that are unique. Like, you got a combo guard, you got a unique forward, like you got Hawthorne, you could throw Trent Noah in there to make shots. That's kind of where I sit right now. And honestly, one guy that I'm monitoring, I don't even know if Kentucky's reached out to him, is like Jordan Burks. Like, why not go reach out to him?
Oh, you saw my tweet on Jordan Burks. Get me that kid, man.
No, I'm not saying he would be the superstar, but like that's a really good starting caliber, even maybe a really good 6-man option. And then you think about it of like, I mean, that's complete length. If you had Cam, Jordan Burks, Hawthorne, all those guys are unique. And honestly, Cam and Hawthorne can learn so much from Jordan Burks too, because we remember what he was as a freshman. He was in the same boat as those 2 guys were.
Yep.
And he's developed a ton. So, maybe like a Jordan Burks, and then, I don't know, he's probably more of a 4. So then maybe you go find like a superstar 3, and then you got one more roster spot, which then you can use maybe to get another practice player or developmental guy or something. But
I think what makes Burks unique is he's like a tweener. He could be a 3 or 4. Like he could really he brings you a lot when it comes to like if this roster really is just right here, you get one more dude. Okay, well we got this guy who can kind of fit wherever we need to as the chips stack. We know what Burks is. He can play both spots
because he's more of. I said it in there earlier, but he's a more polished and proven, player. Idea of player that like Cam Williams or Braden Hawthorne would be, of like this 6'8", 6'9", just kind of athletic, versatile freak who can score from, around the rim. He can score above the rim. He can shoot the 3, good defense, just a high motor energy guy. So like I really would not be opposed to bringing him back. And he had some huge games this year as well. Like he really showed out for UCF. I think he would be an intriguing player if Kentucky could get him, and then just go find me one star, whether it's I don't know who it is, whether it's a reclass guy, something. Just Kentucky needs some type of NBA upside, next level talent of some sort to really get that ceiling and that potential of like, oh, okay, if this guy's on and then these other guys hit on the team, now Kentucky's in business and they can compete with anybody in the country.
Yeah, agreed. And not just the NBA guy for this roster, which is needed, or like a true guy who's projected to go high in the NBA, but for future success too. Like I finally got a dude. Maybe it's this kid that is going to reclass, or maybe it's a guy that drops, like I said, from the NBA draft, and Pope elevates him to become like a true solid first round pick. And I do think Pope has to just decide, which to kind of close this out from where we started to how we're going to end. Pope just has to decide and then say it, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm not Cal. I'm not a dude who's going to go get you a bunch of 5-star freshmen. I'm not going to have the number 1 recruiting class in the country. That's not how I do business, right? I'll maybe have one, but I'm going to try to have some longevity, some continuity in the on my roster, and have multi-year guys, and then go supplement the portal. If one freshman dude fits us, that's what I'm going to get. But just say it so we know what the expectations are, right? Because as much as we bitched about Cal at the end of like we get so excited about these number 1 recruiting classes and we can't win tournament games, we still are in the mindset of we need number 1, number 2, number 3 recruit. We need these guys to come in because that's just how we've operated for the last 15 years. If that's not you, dude, just say it. Just come out and say, this is how I'm going to build my roster. So don't expect this. Don't let those freshmen go somewhere else. We may not like it, but guess what? If you win with it, we won't care. We'll go back to a new model of, okay, this is how we want to play ball, right? That's how, Duke can consistently gets portal guys and freshmen. They get close but can't get over the hump. UConn will have 1 freshman dude. Michigan went completely mercenary. These guys are getting to the championship games based off how their coach are doing the thing. So or with Michigan, like they had a high level freshman who was a bench guy who like was a really good player as a freshman and I think he was a 5-star recruit, had a huge impact off the bench. And then this next year, like he's probably going to be a dude for them. Like go that route. Maybe not the number 1 player in the country, but maybe like a 15, 20, 25, something like that, where like if he hits and he's awesome, okay, well then you have a one and done. If not, if he's decent, then you could come back for next year. Like I would say of what we kind of hope for, Jasper Johnson of like had a good impact freshman year. And then we all kind of in the preseason were like, because of the way this roster is so loaded and he might not play much, like there's a way for year 2 Jasper. Obviously that's not how it went at all in any area based off his play. Obviously he's transferred to Oregon now, but go that route. And honestly, the final thing with the recruiting is just like, I wish we could get some transparency of how the actual recruiting works, of like Pope and the staff and then the JMI part, and like who's involved in those conversations, who's involved at the closing table. I know, we've talked about that and some people sort of know, but like it would be nice to learn or get an idea from Pope himself, because we knew with Cal, like Cal would just go get the guy. And it was just like that. When Cal wanted the guy, it was done.
And Cal had that. But with Pope, it's got to be different. Like, it's got to be an army of recruiting. It's got to be, they got to all be filling roles in recruiting. And Pope's doing this, and this. Mo Williams is doing this, and Mikkel McLean's doing this. And then if JMI is really involved as much as we think they are, then like JMI is doing this. But it would be nice because it all just seems like a big old cluster, and nobody really knows what to do. Nobody really knows their roles and what they need to input. Like that would be my biggest thing. It's like just some clarity of like the actual recruiting process behind Kentucky, because obviously it's not working at all.
Yeah. Or if it is working, we just don't know. Cause like you said, we're not being told what's going on. I agree. It's gotta be, T, you got what is your job? What isn't your job? What task, purpose, instinct. It's got to be there for each level, right? And that doesn't seem like it's there, but we shall see. At 11:49 p.m. Eastern time, I'm telling you that dude is going to be Braden Hawthorne. Similar, now he didn't play last year, but similar to what Vandy did with Tanner Smith, and said like, "Hey, this dude's going to be especially average like 4 points a game."
Tyler
Tanner. What'd I say? Who'd I say?
Tanner Smith.
Not even close. Tyler Tanner. Good Lord. Tyler Tanner. But like what we was with that and came in to be, I think Bray is going to be like that dude. Top 30 recruit, absolute stud, put on some muscle, 6'9" guy. Lazy comparison is Nate Ament because we just saw him. Go watch how Brandon Ingram played with Duke. Like this is the kind of player I think we're going to get in Braden Hawthorne. I said Malachi Moreno was going to be special, outplay his expectations last year. I was right there. I really think I'm right here. Braden Hawthorne is going to be a dude who can start that 3. But thanks for everybody for watching. I appreciate it. These shows are consistently becoming close to 2 hours, which I know T hates because it's way past his bedtime. But I appreciate y'all holding on for me. I will say that I don't know yet about the Derby show. I know I teased it last week. I really want to do it. Jay was potentially invited to a 3-on-3 tournament, so we should find out tomorrow. If he's going to be in a 3-on-3 tournament, it goes from like 3 to 4, so I won't be able to do the Derby show. We'll just stick to the regular happy hour show. Gents, you good with that? Cool. I can't miss a boy 3-on-3 tournament, especially if he's getting invited to by his. He's out at Hoop House just getting in some skills, and this dude was like, "Hey, Jay, you want to come play with me?" So we'll find out tomorrow. So if he's not going to do that, we'll put it out there. We'll do the Derby show, I think, with 127 the game. If not, we'll just do normal happy hour at 6 Eastern, 9 Pacific. But
you know what's funny, Joshy boys? I'm on Mountain Time too, so it's not even like that crazy late for me. But I have always been like this. And when me and Rando used to be on our conventions together and stuff when we were on recruiting in the Marine Corps, he doesn't sleep, so he wants to stay out the whole time. And I would just be like falling asleep wherever we are. Like, man, please take me back, because he always had the rental car. His unit always paid for the rental car. Mine never did. So I was beholden to him, and I already knew what I was in for. He's just lucky he's my boy. But I'd be like crying inside every night. Just like, please take me home so I can go to sleep.
We were on West Coast time out here for the Super Bowl, and my guy was like 9 o'clock. Was like, bro, I'm just like, I got 3 more hours in me, dude. We got
like we just getting started, man.
Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and close out. T and I are rocking the State Line Code gear. Go to that QR code, all UK ball 25% off your State Line Code merch. Feed the studs. Still, I think they still have some of the camos. They're getting the polos in. I just got a couple that they sent to me with the Kentucky stuff, but they have some orange and white ugly polos.
Can't be a thing. Didn't he say they're the best looking ones?
Yes.
They are. He did say that. John said
that's what I heard.
John said it's the best looking one. So use that code, get 25% off, and then you can go to bluegrass-elite.com. I have to say it slow because it's a tongue twister for me. Use that QR code right there. Heavy Pour 15. Get your Heavy Pour sports merch, your all UK ball merch, or any of your Kentucky, Tennessee, Louisville, Cincinnati, Cleveland, whatever you like. He's got it for you. Gary's awesome. Building a jersey for us right now for the football season. It's coming to me this weekend. I'm super stoked about it. We're gonna, if I get it by Saturday, I'll put it on the show. But Drew, thanks for coming on, man. Last minute, I appreciate it. Let me know what you're doing Saturday. Maybe we'll get you on here for what we're doing there. But T Hammer, appreciate you guys. As always, go Cats.
Peace out.
Go Big Orange.
Go Vols.
Peace. Play the music.